Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Learning Space. My name is Nicole Gugliucci. I am the postdoc with the CosmoQuest project. I do informal education outreach stuff, and I have with me Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
Ooh, so Georgia Bracey is our formal education lead at CosmoQuest. So we bring you this weekly show where we talk about astronomy education, space science education, any kind of interesting science education and outreach stuff that comes across our way. So this is our second live show back from a brief summer hiatus. We were traveling a lot in July. The whole team was kind of scattered. And so we came back last week with the first live show where I talked to Miller Goss about making waves. I don't have a copy here, which is a biography of Ruby Payne Scott, the first woman radio astronomer. And between that and the blog post, we've gotten a lot of great comments about that. So thank you. I'm really excited about that book coming out. And so this week, we wanted to bring some highlights from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific meeting that we were both at the end of July, sort of end of July, right? In San Jose.
Yeah.
Yes, third week of July. I don't know where I was.
That's the end.
Okay. I don't remember where I was and when and stuff. There's a lot. So as usual, you guys can help us out by +1ing and sharing the Hangout. You can comment on the event page where this is happening. We've got that coming into the stream, and I think I've got most of the other places that it is on Google Plus as well coming in here as well. I will put a search on the hashtag Learning Space. And you can comment on the YouTube video as well if you're watching this on YouTube. So leave a comment, leave a question, let us know what's going on. That, I think, is all the front matter. So do you want to get us started on something interesting you saw at ASP?
Okay, well, yes, one of the big things, the big threads from this conference was all about evaluation. And evaluation of informal projects mostly. So education and public outreach usually involves a lot of informal kinds of activities at workshops, out at museums, things sometimes in the formal regular classroom, but more often than not it's just out where people are just there because they want to be there, they've chosen to be there, and they're having fun, and they're learning something new about science, interacting with good NASA things, doing citizen science, and it's free choice. They want to be there. So a big question has always been for people who run these kinds of programs, how do you know if your program is doing what you are hoping and thinking that it's doing? How do you evaluate it? How do you know if you're being effective? How do you know if your participants are having fun, if they're learning anything, if they're going to come back and do this thing again, or are they just going to go away and say, ooh, not for me, never again? So how do you do that? Because not only are these kinds of activities free choice, but also part of the good thing is they're not a tested kind of activity. So it's not like in a school where you feel some sort of pressure where I think I'm learning, but even if I'm not, I'm going to have a test at some point. There should be no testing or questioning of any kind, ideally, with these sorts of programs. So then how do you know what's going on? So part of the conference was all about that, different ways to tell if your project's being effective or not, if your participants are learning. And one thing that's always done is just to count the number of people that you interact with, count the number of people that come and download your activity, that visit your website, that visit your museum kiosk, that use your curriculum, whatever it is. So numbers have always been really, really important, and they definitely still are. It's a great first step to seeing at least, how many people at least looked at your activity, at least had some sort of engagement. But then, you want to go further than that, because even though you may see that 500 people stopped by your booth at a conference, it's hard to know exactly what level of engagement happened. what did they do? Did they just cruise by, pick
Yeah.
up a flyer and leave, or did they actually have some sort of meaningful interaction and engagement opportunity? So there are ways to do that, and some of them are creative, some of them are new for people that are just used to taking numbers, but many of the strands and many of the sessions were all about that. So one session that I could only get in on a part of, unfortunately, what was called extreme evaluation.
Oh
And
yeah, I missed that.
yeah, that was right about the
It was
time,
right at the end, yeah.
unfortunately. But it was really good. It was all about taking interviews and open-ended questions. So you're asking people questions, but it's a little more informal, it's a little more open, so they don't feel like there's a right answer that they have to have. You're asking them about their experience. You're asking them to just tell you what they did, what they liked, why they liked it, and then you analyze all of this text. So it's not multiple choice questions, it's not true false, anything like that. It's a little more involved in the analysis, but you can really get some really rich and detailed information. So it's going beyond the numbers to look at what people are actually telling you from interviews, from short surveys, from just really brief interactions face-to-face at a conference. And you can do some very rigorous coding, looking for patterns and themes that emerge from this narrative text, and then actually turn that into some more quantitative data. So you can look at how often certain themes appear in what people are telling you. So it's still some questioning, but it's a little less formal, a little easier to take, I think, for people when they are interacting in an informal, sort of casual way. So that was, there were many sessions about evaluation. It was a big theme of the conference. So that was pretty fascinating for me, and it was nice to see that there were a lot of sessions about doing more with evaluation than just, counting numbers. Right. And to get something more meaningful. So I think for me that was my first impression of the conference.
Yeah, I was in on the there was an EPO impact session that you and I were both in. We were in different groups, and I was in one where we were talking about how to assess things you do with the general public. And the big thing was, numbers you can do. You can count how many brochures you give away. We do that stuff all the time, but how do you go beyond that? And the response rate for something like a survey in an informal setting is incredibly low, because people are coming to a museum to hang out with their kids and do something. They don't want to
exactly.
In fact,
take a test.
Yeah,
a survey, right?
I was at the St. Louis Science Center last Friday night with my partner Tim, and I made him fill out the assessments. I was like, "You need to fill that out. They need bigger numbers." What was the
survey? What was it about?
It was a demonstration they did about magnetism, and specifically comparing the magnetism on Earth and Mars. And so I was like, "You go out there, you fill that." He's like, "Why aren't you filling it out?" I'm like, "I'm biased. I'm not going to fill it out." But I made him do it because it is such a low response rate.
Well, it's true. I mean, and I don't fill out surveys.
Yeah.
Which is
I try.
Exactly, because we deal with that kind of thing, and you know what it's like when nobody fills out your survey.
Yeah.
It's like when you're a teacher, and you're up there and you ask a question or something and nobody raises their hand. And yet that a lot of times when you're a student, that's exactly what you do. Yeah. You don't raise your hand sometimes.
There was somebody who I think said they worked at, I don't remember what planetarium they worked at, but one thing they did is they gave everybody like a poker chip when they came in for the show, and then after the show, they had to put the poker chip in a bucket based on how much they liked the show. And so that was like, like half a second. It's a very simple baseline evaluation, like, it's one question, but almost everyone does it because you've handed them this poker chip, right? And they've got to do something with it.
I know,
so they're going to put it in a bucket.
Yeah, so something that
was really clever.
Short, easy.
Yeah.
No extra effort, not a lot of thinking, unfortunately, because again, that takes more time, and people are out there to have fun. They don't necessarily want to be thinking, too deeply about some sort of question that you're throwing at them. So.
But we want to know what we're doing is right, and our granting agencies want to know that what we're doing is effective. So it's
exactly,
so
and
important.
that's getting more and more critical as people's budgets get smaller or disappear altogether, and you want to make sure that you're getting the most you can from the money that's being invested in the program. So evaluation is really becoming bigger and bigger.
Yes.
All the time.
That it is. That it is. Let's see. What else? Do you want to move on? So we talked some about class. It was a two main conference strands. There was the EPO, Education Public Outreach resources, and then there was Cosmos in the Classroom. So there were a lot of college professors teaching astronomy, and people teaching astronomy at all levels.
Right.
So we talked some about the NGSS, the Next Generation Science Standards, and we're going to get more detail into this on next week's show. But we talked about what they mean for the community and for how they can even be useful for college professors. I think some people were acted as if there's no astronomy in the Next Gen standard. That was kind of like the general grumbling in the room, and
it's always a little concerning when things get changed around, because you get used to things the way they are, and you get comfortable, and then there's always a worry that your particular area of interest or research or just your favorite thing, your favorite topic, not going to be included the same way it was in the old standards. And so when these new standards come out, that's I know one of the things that teachers look for is their favorite stuff. Is it still there?
Right.
Still teach it.
So there was an interesting emphasis. This was new on pre-K and kindergarten resources. I didn't make it to any of those sessions, unfortunately, but I saw one of the posters, and they were just doing really simple phases of the moon, comparing the shape of the moon to like cut pieces of fruit, and having pre-K kids do that kind of sorting activity. And so fortunately I didn't get over to those sessions, but there was this new emphasis. We're going to get them when they're really young. Get them into astronomy when they're really young.
Oh, exactly. I could not make it over to those either. But that is a big thing, keep going younger and younger, because they're fascinated by all things science when they're that young.
Right, and but apparently one big thing for making that success is parental involvement, of course, because you're not, the parents have to bring them to the activities or put them in that pre-K or something like that. So parental involvement seems to be pretty important to that as well. But I think there are parents out there who want this stuff for their kids. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that in the future.
Things like family nights, and I mean we do that here at the STEM Center. I know you've done family nights. I know you have, right?
Probably. I don't remember. I did the Teen Science Cafe recently. I don't know if I've done a family thing recently.
It's something a lot of times libraries have them.
Oh the Family Science Day at the library. I knew there was something.
I mean, called different things, but
We did
Nicole, I know. I thought you did that.
I did. Now I remember.
Yeah, getting the family involved, just for that reason, because if you can catch the kids, as young as possible, might as well. So museums, libraries, community centers love to do that kind of thing. So it's good to see that, though, like you say, appear at a conference like this, because it means that people are more formally investigating its impact and the ways to best do that, and then sharing that with other professionals at a conference. So the word gets spread, and hopefully, you'll see more and more of that going on.
So I am going to start putting a few links, if this is on the event page, but I will pop it into the show notes once if YouTube, I'll put it in the description later. I can't edit it now while it's running, but I can put it on the Google Plus page. A couple of links of interesting resources. We've talked a lot about NASA wavelength, but there's a similar one through the Lunar Planetary Institute called EarthSpace. If you Google EarthSpace, one word, that might get to it, but I've put the link up in the comments. And so that is, if you are interested in anything planetary, they'll have their own review process and a whole lot of lesson plans and stuff for teachers there. And then one workshop I did that was really fun, and I did some video with Google Glass and posted that for one of our Learning Space Quickies last month, is the NOAO, so the National Optical Astronomy Observatory, put together a lot of resources and activities around the Galileo scope. So this is, of course, the fairly inexpensive little plastic telescope that you can put together. And so they've put up some resources on optics and how you can use those lenses and nice little optics kits in different activities, and then have the students put them together. So if you're looking for a telescope type activity, they've got that, and you can look back at our Astrosphere vids YouTube channel for the video I did there, because that was pretty fun. And I think we're going to do something similar soon. We're talking about doing an astronomy camp here at SIUE where we'll do involve the Galileo scopes and do some optics stuff as well.
Yeah, the Galileo scope is great for that.
Yeah.
Very versatile.
Yeah.
Very versatile.
There were some other things, including using planetarium resources in classroom instruction, and there was a study showing that I think it was for middle school children, or elementary or middle school, showing different concepts on an actual planetarium dome had some gains in understanding things in the night sky, moon phases, stuff like that. And I'm excited about that because we're getting an inflatable planetarium here. It's been ordered. It's arriving next week. So, although not terribly inexpensive, an inflatable planetarium system is something that, if you have a group that has one locally, you can really go to town on that. Taking that somewhere and showing students the planetarium show or the night sky show, whatever you have going on, which is pretty fun. So that's actually using that as a classroom resource seems to be a cool thing as well. And there's a caveat to all this, of course. There's all these great materials out there, for especially my background being in teaching college astronomy. There's all these great resources and educational materials that the field's been putting out, but if you don't implement them properly, you don't get the gains. And there were a couple of studies by some professors who did this with their Astronomy 101 classes, and that or they gave the materials to Astronomy 101 professors without much explanation, and unless actually used properly, these great lecture tutorials and things that we have don't actually create any learning gains unless the educator is ready to implement them in a certain way. So that was interesting. That's the kind of the caveats. Like, you can put out all the great resources, but you got to teach people how to use them.
That's
and
true.
One way in which professional development is really important for educators at all stages.
That's right. That's right.
And there's another poster, and there's this great picture on the poster. He's like, I came to the lecture hall with all these great activities, these engagement activities for the students to do in a big lecture, and they still don't show up. The picture of his lecture hall with like just a few scattered students, just because they don't have an if there's no attendance policy at the university.
Right. You got to be there.
The engagement activities, if it's not, I don't know, maybe if it's not worked into the grading scheme somehow, then your students can't learn from them because they don't show up.
Yeah.
So attendance still the biggest common denominator in large astronomy lectures.
But that's great because it shows what impact the teacher has at any level. And, I always love to see those results because it, confirms it's the professional teacher that makes all the difference. No matter how, what awesome materials you have. Like, say, the teacher has to take those materials and then do something with them.
Yes.
And that, can make it sink or swim.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think the same thing with the planetarium, those portable planetariums that we'll see. I'm sure there's studies, but, gosh, how wonderful is that to have a planetarium and be able to show the stuff on the dome, and the kids will get in there and it'll be all great and exciting. But, again, it's how the implementation goes.
Yeah.
That'll really make a big difference. So, like you say, professional development, that training, and then just what the teacher is excited about and wants to do with it kind of comes together to make it succeed. So, yeah, those are fascinating studies. And I could see we could do a whole show on the planetarium.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And its activities. If we could somehow make that work without the actual planetarium,
Oh, I'm
showing
sure we
it over
can.
video. I think we could do it
Oh, I'm
though.
sure we can figure something out. Yeah,
But
they make
yeah,
all
because
their materials available, and I could just show the cylinder,
you could do sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's cool.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm
there
gonna
you
lose
go.
like several days of work playing the planetarium. I know it.
Yes.
Ah,
Where's Nicole? Oh, she's in the dome.
she's
We
a
haven't
dome.
seen her for hours.
We haven't figured out where we can actually inflate it yet. I don't think this room's big enough. We have yet to figure that out. Ugh.
You
All
will.
right. So,
Yeah.
anything
Good.
else you have that was classroom resources or teaching related?
Um, there were a couple of good presentations, or
Mm,
not workshops, like more presentations on misconceptions. That's still something that teachers struggle with. Some ways to be more reflective in the classroom with
right.
students as a way to sort of kind of drive out those misconceptions that are really hard to get rid of. There's so much research that shows that they just tend to stick with people.
Mhm.
You can do lots of direct instruction, and it seems like students learn and get over those misconceptions, especially with astronomy and physics and a lot of science. And then you go back, and a few months later, those misconceptions are just right back there. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I saw
and
a
that
lot of that.
that's years and years of research, people dealing with that. It's a really interesting area because it just shows how the brain just holds on to some things for a variety of reasons, and it
Hmm.
takes more. It takes time. It takes more than a simple lesson to get rid of that and change that thinking. But there was one nice presentation on using reflection with students to make them more actively think about their own thinking
Hmm.
in the classroom, and how that seems to show some promise for shifting some of the misconceptions. So that was, that's something I think that's shown up at these conferences over and over because it's an interesting thing that won't get solved easily. So, and all
Yeah.
teachers deal with that in the classroom. So there was a very nice thing on misconceptions. I liked the one, I don't know if you were in the session about the statewide star party. Do you
Yes, it
remember?
was North Carolina.
Yes, do you remember? Good, North Carolina.
I
I
think,
thought that
yeah.
was really awesome, and that seemed to go talk because they combined citizen science, which I
Hmm.
guess we could probably talk about in a little bit, with just amateur astronomy, basic observing, and they did globe at night for their citizen science project, and all through North Carolina, and had a
Hmm.
big statewide star party. Um, and I wish I could remember more details about that presentation.
Yeah. So
But I just,
they it sounded like the kind of thing that would send me into a panic attack, right? But yeah, they had all these different star parties throughout the state, and they were basically allowed to do whatever they wanted.
and the weather
Um,
cooperated. That was the amazing
the
thing.
weather cooperated, but the forecast was bad up
I know.
until.
So
So
there
I
was
think two
drama.
of them canceled prematurely because the weather looked like off. It was going to be awful. But all the rest of the ones were open, and they did different activities depending on whatever local group. So it was like a network of connected. It was like a network of star parties that all happened the same night.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
that was, but across the state, and so this is
Right, across
they,
North Carolina.
yeah, they think it
And I
was the
think they
first
said
such thing.
there was the first state that's ever
Yeah,
done that.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
other states can take up that challenge and be
I know there's a
number
Central
two, number
Virginia Star
three.
Party every summer because I used to take part in that, but that was the Albemarle County. They do it at one of the elementary schools. The University of Virginia astronomers would do that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's like one county.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
So
different
no,
counties
I
in
just
Arizona have done it as well, but I think that's the first statewide one we've all heard of.
yeah.
Just
So I
all about
thought
the
that was pretty
logistics to
amazing.
do that. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's like a network of different star parties that all happen the same night, and they all have different craft activities, or they've all got telescopes of some sort out. They had to have a rain date, but they didn't have to be the same rain date. So that would have been less exciting if they were
yeah,
happening on
not as
different
good.
nights. But it did work out for them, so that was pretty exciting.
I know. So that one
Um,
sticks in my mind just because of
yeah.
the sheer, nerve of trying something like that.
The size of it. Oh, one of the caveats for that, right, was they got the governor in. They tried to get the governor involved, but then the governor had to cancel at the last minute, and so no governor, no press.
Oh.
That kind of throws you off, right? If you link up with the politicians, but then they can't make it at the last minute, then you lose all your press, because the press follows the politician, right? So that was unfortunate for them.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, but that was a great one. I'm trying to think if there's any.
There was another. So our good friend Sandlin Buxner out at Arizona did a study of literacy of undergrads in science, and she'd presented some of this before, so I remembered it better. But they were looking to see if science literacy was dependent on courses, what courses they had completed, if it had anything to do with what they learned in classes versus what they learned outside of class. And so things that they found were that most undergrads, when asked about this, they know that their professor and textbook are probably the most, and journals are like the most reliable resources. They will tell you those are the most reliable science resources.
Yes.
But the ones they actually read are the top 5 Google searches. And which, okay, not surprising. Like, they know it's not the easiest, it's not the most reliable source, but it's the easiest, and so that's what they go for. Yeah. So that was a really interesting, and the thing that they use to determine whether something is reliable or not is, does it come up on multiple sites? And considering sometimes, frankly, the echo chambers that you get on certain issues. Now, of course, it depends on what you're talking about. You're talking about something that actually has controversy in the public sphere, or you're talking about something that's factual, you know, something that people don't argue over, at least. That of course makes a big difference into whether or not that's correct. But that was a little unnerving. But it's good that they realize the reliability or non-reliability of different resources.
And that's a real interesting finding, because one of the big pushes now is for, well, it's part of literacy, but 21st century skills, which is not only knowing, you know, where to get your information in all these new ways, but how to evaluate it. And you know, do you think about where your information is coming from? Do you look and see if it's a reliable source or not? Do you think about that at all? And there's a big push to teach that, you know, as well as where to find stuff. But it's interesting that, you know, students, maybe they already know what's reliable in a sense, and not, but yet, you know, they still go for something that's easy.
So I saw a screenshot today, and if anyone watching knows if this is true or not, I didn't look into it, but someone sent me a screenshot today saying that the MLA handbook now officially has a method for citing tweets.
Oh.
It's a screenshot, so I don't know if this is true.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Rumor has it that the MLA handbook may actually have a method of citing tweets. Somebody could fact check me on that.
Go Google that.
Go Google that. Oh yeah, I don't have time to fact check most of the stuff I see, you know, that comes across my screen on a daily basis. But that one was good. So we're getting to that point. I
totally believe it.
Yeah. It was like last name, first name, username in parentheses, the content of the tweet, right, because you can do that, and then, date.
The date, yeah.
The official MLA way of citing the tweet. So there you go.
Well, why not? You know,
it's a quote, right? It's a quote from somebody.
I was going to say, you can cite, you know, personal conversations, you can cite email, you can cite interviews, so it's the logical next step.
There you go. There you go. All right, so I have some other interesting things to share. So first of all, I spent a lot of time talking with the bloggers from the Candles blog. So Candles, C-A-N-D-E-L-S. So it's Candles-Club. The link in the comments. But if you C-A-N-D-E-L-S. A bunch of the scientists that work on this particular series is a huge survey project using the Hubble Space Telescope to look at galaxy evolution. And they have created this blog where scientists talk about, you know, they've got at least one blog post from every, you know, scientist that they've got, you know, involved. And It's run by some of the younger grad students and postdocs, and they talk about the science that they're doing, and they talk about the results that are coming out of the survey. So it's this huge, several dozen person collaboration. But they're doing a really good job of breaking things down into the language of, the non-professional. It's taking out the jargon and making it understandable. And so hopefully we'll have them on a future show, because they were talking about what it's like getting some of the senior scientists to write a blog post and convincing them that this is a good thing for you professionally to be able to write this and to write this. And they're, even within the collaboration, you don't always have the time to dig through the papers of what people are doing. So if they write this introduction that's, jargon-free and friendly, even the other scientists can read that and get a gist of what everybody on the team is doing. So that is a really interesting thing, and I highly support them and check them out, and see, hopefully we'll have them on a future show, because they're really cool. And Astrobytes, which is astrobytes.com.
About that, because that, as I say, reminds me of Astrobytes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Astrobytes is the place where you can find AstroPH is the place where astronomers have basically and physicists have been posting their preprints of journal articles for free for a decade or a few decades. So this is like the open science movement before there was an open science movement, we can say. And the journals really don't care, because it's a preprint, so they're allowed to, and they don't seem to be losing money off of it, so they just kind of let it happen. It's a standard. Like, this is what you learn as an undergrad or a grad student in astronomy, is you subscribe to the AstroPH daily email list, so you know what papers are coming out. You know what's happening. Anyway, so that's the abstract service. You get the preprints. So that's access to all the astronomy. Most of the astronomy papers being written. A lot of physics papers as well. Astrobytes. Is a bunch of grad student bloggers who take these AstroPH papers. They pick something they find that interests them, and they blog about it, and they write about it in a way that I think their target audience is astronomy undergrads, to bring the research to the undergrad level. What they have found through user surveys is that most of their audience is grad students and professionals who are too lazy to read the paper. And actually they do.
Oh, they're just too busy. They're too busy.
Too busy. Honestly, they're really real well-written blog posts, and that's why I read them too, because it's easier to get through than the paper sometimes. It's kind of like having a journal club discussion in a blog post, written by one, or at least a journal club presentation in a blog post. So,
it's hard to even keep up with Astrobytes.
Yes.
Yes. You can get them delivered. I get them delivered to my email box.
Yeah.
And, like, every day there's at least one or two. It's like you have to work just to keep up with that.
Yes. So they are going strong. Yeah, but they are going strong, and that's a great project. And they also did a workshop called ComSciCon. I think it's workshops.astrobytes.com. It's on their website, where they had a bunch of. I remember getting a notice about this last year, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not a grad student anymore. Can't go to this." It's just for grad students in astronomy who want to learn how to communicate science, and that was apparently a big hit. And that was very grassroots, because it came from the grad students again. So this is a really good sign of the way things are going with young professional astronomers being more interested in actually communicating to the public.
Yeah.
So there's a big trend there. So the Candles blog and the Astrobytes blog are two really cool things. I also want to show you guys. So Connie Walker at the National Optical Astronomy Observatory had these little cards to give out. So the Globe at Night dates for 2014 have been announced. And notice, it's no longer just a few months of the year. There's every month of the year, there's some period of time which Globe at Night will be happening.
Wow.
So this is a citizen science project where people can go out and look at the stars and look at the constellations and figure out what the sky glow is like in their area. In addition, they're collaborating with the creators of several mobile apps that either let you do the star count or that turn your iPhone into a sky meter, light sky meter.
I think that's the best thing.
Yeah, so I know they're in talks there to get that folded into the Globe at Night program. So Globe at Night 2014 is ready to roll for next year. It'll be going on all year long. So
every month.
Every month, I know, very excited because usually some years when before I knew Connie, I would always it would show up on my radar and then it would be like done. I was always overwhelmed with stuff in the beginning of the semester and it'd be like, oh, it's over. So it's gonna be all year round. So probably, and those dates are probably just the times around new moon. So that's the best time to do it. So,
good. Yep.
Very exciting.
Go out and learn the night sky too. Learn those constellations.
Yes. I know. I've been relearning them now that I'm doing the public nights here on campus.
I know. Yeah. And you've got lots of light pollution, I know, out at the site. That I haven't been there recently, but it's probably been a year since I've been there, and I know there was some pretty. The
southwestern sky is pretty
so you need to take a reading out there and see what the sky glow is out.
Yeah, a couple nights when it's been slow, I've done the star counts with my Android app that does that. I've done some, and then I've done some of the direct Globe at Night observations. But yeah, it's kind of crappy the southwestern sky. So we're pushing along with our light glow.
Yeah, well, it's amazing what you can still see, given that. So.
Yes. I can now find M13.
Anyway.
I can now find M13 globular cluster without a finder scope, without the Honor star system. I can now find that.
And with the sky glow, so it's
with the sky glow, it's high enough. Challenge. Yeah. Do you have any other major topics you wanted to cover? I've got like a whole list. I don't know what to whittle it down to.
Okay. I actually think I think we've hit the ones that came to my mind after waiting for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Got back and what leaped to mind, and those were the ones. So.
Yeah, let me find the.
I know there were great programs on the posters.
Yes, I'm looking up the app names. Where's the app? The Skyglow app. Because just got a question or comment from Ulysses saying, I want those apps. Loss of Night is the iPhone app. LOSS of Night. That one turns your iPhone. I think it's only iOS, that one. Loss of Night, I think. Let me check. That's the one that makes it a sky glow. Oh, that's in German. That doesn't help. No, sorry. Loss of the Night is the Android one. That's the one I have. That you can use to do the stars. It doesn't quite turn it into a sky glow meter. I can't find the other one. There was the iPhone app. Skyglow app iPhone. Come on.
But there was one that was already out, right? That Globe at Night was going to. Something they were going to develop. I don't think.
Well, they have a mobile site. I can't believe I can't find this right now. They have a mobile site that lets you do your observations.
Yes, so you can take your iPad, I believe, right? You can take a tablet.
Go and do your observations pretty quickly.
And enter your observations, right? And it'll go right. I believe it takes the data right in. But the actual sky meter,
Dark sky meter. Duh. It's actually called Dark Sky Meter.
No, really?
Figured it out. Dark Sky Meter. That's the iPhone app.
All right.
It lets you measure the sky brightness.
Okay.
I think that's the one.
I'm going to get that one too.
I think that's the one. And then I don't have an iPhone, so. But I use Loss of the Night. It's a German app.
I'm going to try it.
Okay, that's the one I use on my Android phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you sit there and it tells you, okay, go to that star. Can you see it? Yes or no, or maybe, or I don't know. And so it gets you, and the minimum is to do 5 stars, but you could sit there, and I sat out there for half an hour. I did 40-something stars, 40-something observations by my house. So there, if you want to catch up on more of the ASP stuff, there were not many of us tweeting with the hashtag, which in a way kind of makes it better because, you know, it's not too much to go through. But the hashtag was ASP125, and I am going to, while the tweets still exist, before they disappear, I'm going to do a storify of a bunch of them. But yeah, there was a few of us that did a lot of tweeting, live tweeting of the sessions. So some of my notes just say see hashtag. So I'll put together a storify page of that and maybe share that around. I haven't seen one done already, so I should do that. Let's see, a couple of other things. There was a public talk. There was several public talks, but I only saw the one that was on the Tuesday or whatever day that was.
The Common ISON?
Common ISON talks. That was Alex Filipenko, who usually talks about galaxies, was talking about Common ISON. And so it was the, kind of went over some of the early media hype of Comet of the Century, and, bright as the full moon, and some of that. Like, yes, it'll be as bright as the full moon when it's right next to the sun. Good luck with that. Don't burn your eyes out. Don't do it. And so it talked about some of that early media hype, but then, you know, so it has the potential to be as exciting and good to see as Hale Bopp, which I have a memory of because I lived in Staten Island. That was one of the few astronomical events that I actually saw. Yeah. Most things I'd look for and didn't see anything. But Hale Bopp was pretty, you know, I didn't see the tail or anything, but I saw a fuzzy blob. Fuzzy spot, yep. That was it. So, you know, we could be lucky and it could be as good as Hale Bopp, or it could completely fail, like, what was the name of the comet? Someone's going to be yelling at their speaker when they're listening to this. Cahote was the comet that kind of everyone hyped up and it totally fizzled.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I don't remember.
You know, and as astronomy advocates, we don't want to get too unrealistic in our expectations when we're talking to people and talking to the media about this, and just kind of those reminders. But it should be pretty spectacular. It'll be approaching the sun in late November. So it'll start getting really bright then and in the evening sky, and then it'll swing around the sun, and if it survives, this is the big deal, if it survives its pass near the sun, then it'll be pretty spectacular in December, but you have to get your butt up early in the morning before sunrise to see that. So I'm sure we'll have observing parties or something for that when that gets closer here in Edwardsville. So come to Illinois.
You'll be looking forward to those. Okay.
I'll be opening the Skylab at 3 a.m. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then he did a whole thing about pi because I know his wife is the creator of the Pi Zone, PIZone.org, which is a celebration of Pi Day. So he had lots of facts about pi as well. So they were pretty cool talking about that. That's pretty much it. Like I said, I've got a whole list of other stuff. I would suggest you guys go to Astrosphere Vids and look at the last Learning Space quickies that I did, because you could see the activities from the NOAO Arizona group, the optics stuff, Night Sky Network with JPL. We did their meteor right or meteor wrong activity. And and then the Smithsonian. So my friend Genevieve de Messier, who works for the Smithsonian, does a astronomy chats where about once a week they bring in an astronomer, either in real life or virtually, to talk to visitors and not give a talk so much as actually do an informal chat. So if you live in the DC area, you want to look for those astronomy chats. She demoed that with a little iPad hanging on the poster board. And the astronomer, Jolene Carberg, 3 of us are all UVA alumni. So
interactive poster.
Yes, interactive poster. You could actually go up and talk to a floating head. Speaking of talking to people with posters, I said hello to Camilla. and Romeo, who actually runs Camilla. Camilla is officially, Camilla the Space Chicken is officially no longer working for NASA, but she will be continuing her efforts at STEM outreach. So that is sad to see her leaving the SDO project, but good to see that she is continuing to be a part of STEM outreach and EPO. I know there's plans. She's planning to be at a bunch of conferences we'll be at later in the year, so there'll be more.
Yes, where can we see her then?
I don't know if they have an official schedule yet, so I'll hold off on that.
Itinerary, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they have an official travel itinerary for her yet. But we got a picture with her. I have so many pictures with Camilla, and we got a tweet from her for CosmoQuest. That was nice. So that was good to see Romeo and Camilla and hear that they're still doing their thing. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yay!
Good.
Okay.
And I guess we should say citizen science was also well represented at the conference, so which is nice to see, along with evaluation. That's another growing area, and seeing more and more of that at these conferences. So, good to know that the word's being spread about that.
Yeah.
All
we did a whole working
projects and what people are learning from them, and how you can get involved. So.
Yeah, we had a whole working group about that, and I know I just sent the audio to the organizer, so we all have conference proceedings that are due September 1st. So we'll be all writing up our own sessions to go in that, and I think I just got a link to last year's, so it'll come out about a year from now. If you, I think it's free if you went to the conference. I got a link.
Everybody gets one, is how it's been anyway.
I just got a link to the ebook version for last year's. So like literally today. So it takes about a year to produce those things, but we'll all be writing these up, and I'm sure I'll be submitting mine to Astro PH. You can read them anyway.
Are they just doing ebooks now? Do you know?
I have no idea. Okay. I don't know what I would do with another textbook. I'd put it on my shelf and not open it. Ebooks I will open on my iPad and actually read. So it's friendly to the environment.
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all that is coming out. I will follow up. I will do a storify later tonight of the try and capture the ASP tweets, since like I said I haven't really seen that happen. So before those disappear off into the Twitter archives.
Very good. Yeah. So,
all right, so that is all we have, I think, for this week. Next week we will talk about the next-gen science standards and where astronomy fits in. So all you teacher types, if you're interested in that, we will go into that a little bit, so you don't have to go through the colored boxes of doom.
But you can. We can guide you.
We can guide you. We can guide you.
A map to get you through safely, and maybe be pleasantly surprised actually at what you find in there sometimes. So I'm guilty more than anybody probably of being too cynical and skeptical about these things. So
you cynical? This I don't see. This I don't see.
I've noticed this in myself recently.
Recently.
No, but yes, I think after talking with many teachers recently through a number of different workshops, I just find that, there is a lot of good stuff in here, and, there's maybe more astronomy than you might think. So that's, something we'll dive into next week.
Very exciting.
Very
exciting. Yay. So that was it, and that was our wrap-up. Thank you for the Astronomical Society of the Pacific for putting on a good conference. So that was a lot of fun. Very busy for us, but a lot of fun. And so what do we have coming up next? Okay, so Friday we have the weekly space subject. What do we have next? I don't know what day it is.
You have all that knowledge, yes.
Fridays, the weekly space hangout. So that's at noon Pacific. Fraser Kane and a whole bunch of us rowdy astronomy journalist types talk about the space news for the week. And, I should see if that email gets sent out. Sunday night is the virtual star party. So Scott Lewis and Fraser Kane bring you views from all of our amazing amateur astronomers and through their telescopes.
Do you have a preview of Friday's topics? Or is that
No,
really a
because
mystery
I haven't sent the email
until
out yet.
Friday? Okay.
I will
Sure.
probably bring up the thing I just wrote about on Discovery, which is gamma ray bursts and something called a kilonova. So I will find out
Oh,
what a
you gotta
kilonova
tune in
is.
for that. Oh my
Tune in.
gosh. Okay.
Yes, and then Monday. So Pam will be back in the U.S. So I'm assuming that Astronomy Cast is on as usual for Monday. I don't know if they've been able to keep up with her lack of internet their last couple weeks of her
Problems.
journey.
Right.
But hopefully there'll be another Astronomy Cast. They'll be back on Monday afternoon. We'll be doing talking about NGSS next Wednesday on this show, and then there will be a special. The event isn't posted yet, but at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, something like
Sounds good.
on Thursday, next Thursday, the 15th. We're doing a special hangout with some members of the Dawn team. So Dawn is the spacecraft that has visited Vesta and will be visiting Ceres, the biggest asteroid and also now a dwarf planet. And so we'll be talking about the science of what is lurking under the regolith of Ceres. We'll be talking about that at 1 p.m. Pacific, August 15th. The event page for that's coming up soon. So that's a special event to look for.
Okay.
So yeah,
Lots of good stuff coming up.
that's my brain dump.
Good.
Of all the hangout. Awesome.
I'm impressed. I'm
Thank
impressed.
you.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. All right, so we're going to close up the show. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching after the fact, thank you for watching or listening. And we'll see you next week on Learning Space.
Yeah, see you next Wednesday. Bye. Know if your program is doing what you are hoping and thinking that it's doing. How do you evaluate it? How do you know if you're being effective? How do you know if your participants are having fun, if they're learning anything, if they're going to come back and do this thing again, or are they just going to go away and say, ooh, not for me, never again? So how do you do that? Because not only are these kinds of activities free choice, but also part of the good thing is they're not a tested kind of activity. So it's not like in a school where you feel some sort of pressure where I think I'm learning, but even if I'm not, I'm going to have a test at some point. There should be no testing or questioning of any kind, ideally, with these sorts of programs. So then how do you know what's going on? So part of the conference was all about that, different ways to tell if your project's being effective or not, if your participants are learning. And one thing that's always...
And so this week, we wanted to bring some highlights from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific meeting that we were both at the end of July, sort of end of July, right? In San Jose.
Yeah.
Yes, third week of July. I don't know where I was.
That's the end.
Okay. I don't remember where I was and when and stuff. There's a lot. So as usual, you guys can help us out by +1ing and sharing the Hangout. You can comment on the event page where this is happening. We've got that coming into the stream, and I think I've got most of the other places that it is on Google Plus as well. Coming in here as well. I will put a search on the hashtag Learning Space. And you can comment on the YouTube video as well if you're watching this on YouTube. So leave a comment, leave a question, let us know what's going on. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Learning Space. My name is Nicole Gugliucci. I am the postdoc with the CosmoQuest project. I do informal education outreach stuff, and I have with me Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
So Georgia Bracey is our formal education lead at CosmoQuest. So we bring you this weekly show where we talk about astronomy education, space science education, any kind of interesting science education and outreach stuff that comes across our way. So this is our second live show back from a brief summer hiatus. We were traveling a lot in July. The whole team was kind of scattered. And so we came back last week with the first live show where I talked to Miller Goss about making waves. I don't have a copy here, which is a biography of Ruby Payne Scott, the first woman radio astronomer. And between that and the blog post, we've gotten a lot of great comments about that, so thank you. I'm really excited about that book coming out.
Done is just to count the number of people that you interact with, count the number of people that come and download your activity, that visit your website, that visit your museum kiosk, that use your curriculum, whatever it is. So numbers have always been really, really important, and they definitely still are. It's a great first step to seeing at least, how many people at least looked at your activity, at least had some sort of engagement. But then, you want to go further than that, because even though you may see that 500 people stopped by your booth at a conference, it's hard to know exactly what level of engagement happened. What did they do? Did they just cruise by, pick up a flyer and leave, or did they actually have some sort of meaningful interaction and engagement opportunity? So there are ways to do that, and some of them are creative, some of them are...
That I think is all the front matter. So do you want to get us started on something interesting you saw at ASP?
Okay, well, yes, one of the big things, the big threads from this conference was all about evaluation, and evaluation of informal projects mostly. So education and public outreach usually involves a lot of informal kinds of activities, at workshops, out at museums, things sometimes in the formal regular classroom, but more often than not it's just out where people are just there because they want to be there, they've chosen to be there, and they're having fun and they're learning something new about science, interacting with good NASA things, doing citizen science, and it's free choice. They want to be there. So a big question has always been for people who run these kinds of programs, how do you